How does a husband answer public humiliation without shouting or breaking the law? What happens when his quiet planning meets my loud mistakes in a very public place? Can a single-party photo end a marriage if the paperwork arrives with it? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Zuleika Mia, and I tell my story the way I lived it, fast, bright, and a little unfair. I am 31, a marketing coordinator for a small arts non-profit. I chase applause because silence makes me feel small. I said attention was part of my job. My husband Evan said he wanted respect more than likes. I told him he was dramatic. I believed I was right. We had a themed party on the calendar. I planned the costumes and the photos. I said it would help our next fundraiser. He asked if I could keep things simple. I laughed and said we needed buzz. He looked tired and said we should think about our daughter, Mila. I told him not to use her as a shield. I thought he would bend like always. That night, I chose the tight costume and the mask. I told myself it was only fabric. I said to Cassia, my co-worker, that the camera would love me. She agreed. I felt strong. I did not think about boundaries. I did not think about Evan watching. I thought about the numbers on the screen. I said I could handle fallout. I was sure I could spin anything. I woke early and decided to start strong. I told myself I would set the tone for the week. I brewed coffee and arranged 2 mugs far apart on the counter. I said distance was practical because of the crowded sink. I knew it looked like a small border. Evan came in quiet. He asked if I could be home for Mila's bedtime that night. I said I needed to network after work. He asked if networking meant the rooftop teaser again. I said outreach was not a party and that he knew my job. He nodded but kept watching my phone. I kept my phone face down. I said notifications messed with my focus. He asked why the sound was off. I answered that silence helped me think. He asked if I had told the sitter a clear time. I said he could handle bedtime like a grown man. He had no complaint. He just rinsed his cup and set it near the sink. I put milk foam on mine and posted a photo to my story. I wrote that the week would be loud and good. Hearts appeared. I felt taller than the kitchen. He showed me the book he planned to read with Mila at night. He said she asked for the chapter with the bear. I said that was cute, and that social buzz would help us all in the long run. He asked how a clip of me flirting with a DJ would help the family. I said donors liked personality. He asked if personality had to mean touch. I said he was reading the crowd wrong. He closed his mouth and set the book on the table. His laptop was open near the toaster. I walked past and saw folders lined in a clean grid. The names were simple: home, auto, bank. I wanted to say the layout looked dull. I did not say it. He reached over and shut the laptop with a careful hand. He asked if I needed the car. I said Cassia would ride with me to the office. He said he would take the bus and pick up groceries on the way back. I said he was free to do that. I pushed the fact that I was in control. At lunch break, I sent Cassia a mirror selfie from the office bathroom. I told her the costume would be tight and bright. She said the camera would love it and that the board wanted energy. I said the board would thank me after the donations rose. She warned that some donors could be conservative. I said donors changed with the times. She said the comments on last week's teaser were mixed. I said people love to complain and then show up anyway. After work, I messaged my mother. I said the party would cement my role at the non-profit. She sent back praise and said confidence sold art. I liked the message and did not mention Evan. I did not want advice about marriage. My sister dropped a line and said the mask looked powerful. I said it felt like power just to plan it. While I typed, Evan texted that he would cook pasta and that Mila had circle time homework. I reacted with a heart and no words. When I got home, the apartment felt staged. The kids' shoes were lined up, and the trash bin was empty. Evan asked if I could sit with Mila for 10 minutes and help her glue paper circles. I said yes, but only for a moment, because I had to finalize the event posts. Mila patted the glue stick like it was a pet. I told her the circles looked perfect. She said Daddy promised the bear story later. I said I would kiss her after the story. She smiled and went back to sticking pieces. In the kitchen, Evan was wiping the counter. He asked if I wanted to go over the sitter plan for the party night. I said I had it handled and that he was making it heavy. He said he wanted to keep the evening simple. I said simple did not bring donors. He asked if I remembered it was his mother's birthday dinner the next day. I said I would go and that the video online would be cold by then. He said dinner was for family, not a press briefing. I said I knew the difference and that I could manage both. He set his phone on the island and scrolled through the shared family calendar. A small red circle sat on a Thursday next month. I asked what the circle was for. He said it was a reminder for general errands. I said he was getting obsessive with lists. He said lists helped him think. I shrugged and opened the fridge. I took out a sparkling water and popped the tab too loud. He looked at my face like he was waiting for a different person to appear. I met his eyes and gave him the person I chose. I said the board wanted the party loud and bold, and that my job was to deliver it. After dinner, he cleaned while I drafted captions on the couch. I wrote lines about art and play. I described touch as a costume language. I told myself that words could turn any clip into context. His phone lit up with a calendar entry I did not know. It said, meeting, personal with a time in the morning. He tapped it away and put the phone face down. I asked if everything was fine at school. He said everything was fine, and that he had small tasks to handle. I said he could tell me if something was wrong. He said nothing was wrong. I did not push because the narrative worked for me if he seemed closed. Later, I carried laundry past our room and saw the guest bed slightly disturbed. An extra pillow sat crooked. I thought he had slept there one night to give me space after my late post. I said separation could cool small fights. I also said we were strong. Both lines could not be true, but I liked how they sounded in my head. In our room, I set my phone on the nightstand and flipped the ringer off. He came in with a thin binder labeled Utilities. He slid it into the bottom drawer of the desk. I told him bills looked tidy. He said order helped him rest. He asked if we could turn off the phone lights and read for a bit. I said I had to finalize captions so the algorithm would catch the morning wave. He asked if a wave would hold our home together when people gossiped. I said people would hush when they saw I was unbothered. He said he hoped I would be on time for bedtime the next evening. I said I would try. He said try was not the same as do. I said he sounded like a teacher in a meeting. He said he was a counselor, and that words mattered. He set an alarm, and I saw the label for a second before he turned the screen. It read, paper drop with a time set for morning. I felt a small needle of curiosity and told myself it was office errands. I asked if he was helping the principal with forms. He said he had small tasks. His tone was even and plain, like a flat road. I did not like how calm he was. Calm made my noise feel cheap. I shifted and told myself I needed to be bigger, brighter, louder. I convinced myself this story needed a star, and I was best at playing one. I took a shower and practiced the smile that reads as above it all. I thought about the mask for the party and the way the light would catch the edges. I told myself a camera could not hurt a marriage. I told myself a touch on fabric was not a touch on me. I pictured comment hearts piling up like confetti. When I came back, he was at the desk, arranging pens. He looked up and asked if I was done with the bathroom. I said yes, and that he could take his turn. He closed the drawer slowly. The handle gave a soft metal sound. I asked if he needed anything from the closet. He said he was fine. He stood and walked past me, with the steady, careful steps he used around sleeping children. He turned off the lamp, and the room went gentle and low. I slid under the blanket with my phone in hand and watched the follower count rise by a few. I told myself this was progress. I told myself this was attention that would pay. Then I heard it again, clearer in the quiet hall. The small, final sound made my skin prickle. The desk drawer latch clicked shut behind him. I reached the office early and decided to make noise in a neat way. I said to myself that good buzz starts in daylight. I placed my tote by my desk and opened the shared calendar. I added a bright emoji to the party event and felt proud of the color on the screen. Cassia waved from across the open plan and asked about the costume. I said it would be bolder than the teaser. She laughed and said the board wanted results. I said results came from confidence. She said donors liked clean lines. I said donors also liked fun. I drafted a caption and kept the tone light. I wrote that the masquerade revival would be playful and safe. I told myself that safe was a magic word for cautious people. Mr. Shaw walked by and asked if we could keep brand guidelines in mind. I said we would be tasteful. He pointed at the non-profit logo and asked that we avoid risky filters. I said art lived where taste pushed the line, but I nodded and smiled. He moved on without a smile, and I decided he simply did not get it. By mid-morning, I filmed a tiny office clip. I twirled a paper mask on a pencil and mouthed a line about costume language. I kept the audio off for work respect. The short loop looked cute, and I posted it to my story with a link to the RSVP page. Hearts popped up. A coworker across the aisle cleared his throat and asked me to lower my chair squeak. I said sorry and said the chair made its own decisions. He did not smile either. I thought the floor needed my energy and pressed on. The printer near HR whirred to life and then choked. I walked over, tapped the tray, and a single blank page slid out. The smell of toner hung in the air. Someone had left a clipboard on the counter that showed only the word statement at the top. I felt watched by the word, then told myself it was nothing. Cassia leaned in and asked if the rooftop teaser had any negative comments. I said we had a few, but that people always complain. She said the complaints mentioned family values. I said family values could include a wife who supports her own career. She made a face and said we would see. By lunch, the group chat was hot with plans. Someone suggested a toast at midnight. I said a toast at 10 would help the crowd stay orderly. Cassia replied that earlier would be better for photos. I said I would choreograph the moment. I pictured the lights, the flash, the smile. I told myself the camera turned me into the best version of me. Evan texted and asked if we could talk after Mila's bedtime. I reacted with a heart and put the phone face down. Mr. Shaw stood at my desk after I returned from the kitchen. He asked for a quick word later about brand risk. I said my role was to build buzz, not to hide from it. He said major donors had grandchildren at our camps and watched our tags. I said grandparents like to brag when we looked lively. He did not laugh. He asked if I could join him and HR at 3. I said I had prep at 3. He said we would keep it short. I said fine. I checked the shared family calendar and saw a new entry from Evan, Willow Street, 3:10 p.m. The time made a soft ache in my chest. I told myself it was a home visit for work, a normal counseling task. I did not ask. I opened my DM and saw Marco's message about set times. He said the second set would start at 10 and that he had a surprise track. I said the mask would match the track, and he replied with a fire emoji. I imagined Evan's face if he saw the exchange and told myself he would understand once donations rose. The office printer started again with a smooth hum. I heard someone in HR ask for quiet in a low voice. Another coworker wore headphones and spoke into the mic with slow, careful words. The word documentation floated over the cubicles. I decided they were dealing with someone else's problem. I posted another story, a picture of glitter fabric, and wrote that consent and costume could dance together. I believed the sentence made me look thoughtful and fierce at the same time. Around 2, Cassia whispered that the donor's daughter had commented on my rooftop boomerang. I clicked it. The comment asked if the non-profit endorsed handsy art. I told myself it was a joke. I replied with a smile and said, context was everything. My fingers shook, but I blamed the coffee. Cassia said we should keep the feed clean. I said we should not feed fear. Mr. Shaw sent a calendar invite titled Quick Word. I almost declined, then clicked accept. At my desk, I angled my phone away from the hallway and rewatched the teaser clip. The frame where the DJ leaned close looked intimate but not obscene. I told myself a stranger's hand on a costume panel was not a hand on me. I told myself the internet loved bold women. Evan texted again. He said he would handle pickup and dinner. I reacted with a thumbs up. The small reply felt like a door shutting, but I told myself I preferred quiet support anyway. By 2:30, the office buzzed with small crises. HR asked someone to sign a delivery. A volunteer called about tablecloths. The printer jammed again and spit a pale half-page. I went to fix it and found the tray almost empty. A sticky note near the stack read, "Bring forms." I laughed under my breath and said forms multiplied like rabbits. I took a breath and set my face to calm. Back at my desk, a text came in from an unknown number. Please confirm receipt. I saw the preview and deleted the thread. I told myself it was a wrong number. My hands were warm. I opened my email and typed a draft to the board about party safety. I wrote that staff would keep lines clear and that the touch moments would be staged and light. I said we would post signs about consent. I promised that we understood optics. The word optics felt wise in my mouth. 3 o'clock arrived like a slow bell. I walked to the HR side room and sat across from Mr. Shaw. He thanked me for coming and asked about the hashtag traffic. I said traffic was strong. He asked if I understood that the non-profit had a family profile. I said families loved energy. He asked if my personal account could avoid linking risky content to the organization's page. I said the party was on our page already. He sighed and said he supported creative ideas but needed guardrails. I nodded and said I would keep it tasteful, then added that taste depended on the room. He pressed his lips together and said we would leave it there. He asked me to review the social policy by end of day. I said I would do that. When I reached my desk, the group chat burst with tags from last night's rooftop. New accounts had reshared my clip, with captions about art and touch. The office felt closer, like the air had stepped toward me. I told myself this was the price of leadership. I also told myself I could still spin the story into a win. I stood, smoothed my skirt, and took a breath. Then Mr. Shaw appeared at the end of the aisle with his neutral face. He raised a hand for my attention and used a polite voice. He asked for a quick word in the small meeting pod as the tagged photos started stacking under our non-profit hashtag. I watched the notification bubbles bloom on my screen. The pod door stood open like a mouth. I felt the floor tilt a little and told myself to smile. The club thumped like a soft engine, not a roar, just a steady push. I arrived in my mask and tight costume and told myself this was work. The bar lights were warm and made a small stage wherever I stood. Cassia waved from the floor and lifted her phone. She said we needed early content. I posed by the neon sign and touched the edge of my corset like it was armor. I told myself armor looked best when someone else reached for it. The thought felt clever. I held it close. Marco leaned over the counter with a grin. He asked about the track order and said the second set would make the crowd float. I said I could float fine without help. He laughed and slid me a soda with lime. I put my elbow on the bar and made a picture out of the scene. Cassia aimed her camera and told me to turn. I turned. I tilted. I owned the frame. I said this was the job, not a date, not a mess. The floor filled. Masks bobbed like small moons. I saw Evan at the entrance with a careful posture. He looked steady, like a post in the ground. He nodded at the sitter's text on his phone and slipped it away. I waved him over, bright and easy. He asked if I wanted water and if I planned to stay long. I said we needed donations and that I needed to be seen. He said we should keep the night simple. I said simple was a mood for small rooms. He stepped back and watched. The music lifted. A masked stranger asked for a photo with me near the stage lights. He spoke like a fan of the cause. I thought a friendly pose would help the tag count. I raised my arm and smiled with my chin high. He hovered his hand near the edge of my corset panel. I felt a quick heat on my skin under the fabric. I told myself it was only the costume, the rules of play, the theme doing its job. I said to the stranger to make it quick without saying it out loud. He traced the edge while Cassia recorded. I kept my face smooth. Evan's eyes were on me. Not hard, not sharp. They were tired eyes. He came closer and asked if I was fine. I said I was more than fine and that he should stop reading into optics. He said optics were the point. I said art used optics to change minds. He asked if the man needed to touch the fabric to make the art work. I said the fabric was part of the show and that boundaries were costumes too. He stood still, and that stillness annoyed me. Stillness makes noise when I am trying to be the only sound. Cassia shouted that the light was perfect and told us to hold. Crowd bodies pressed but not heavy. Phones were up. I heard 3 women near the rail talk about the clip. One said she loved my confidence. One said the non-profit was taking risks. One said this might be messy. I loved the first comment and ignored the rest. I told myself messy was good for reach. I adjusted my mask and leaned into the touch a second longer than I wanted. My stomach tightened. Then I forced a grin. Evan moved to the smoking patio where the bass turned to thumps in the wall. He put on headphones and faced the alley. I followed and asked why he left the frame. He said he did not want to stand in the middle of my show. I said I did not want him sulking in a corner. He said he was not sulking and that he was giving me space. I saw his phone screen in the dim light. A thread at the top said follow up. He locked the phone with a smooth thumb. I felt a sting and called it paranoia. He put a small USB stick into his pocket. A date was written on the tape. I told myself it was schoolwork. He asked if I needed anything. I said I needed support, not lectures. He said he would take Mila to the park in the morning and ask me to rest after. I said I would be fine. Back on the dance floor, Marco cued the second set and lifted a bottle for show. He said the crowd needed a hero shot. I lifted my soda and made it look like a celebration. The masked stranger reappeared, playful, asking for another quick pose. I told myself I was in control. I let him do the costume edge again, only this time he lingered. The fabric was firm, but my skin was not. I felt Evan behind me even before I turned. He said we should go home soon. I said he could go if he wanted. He said we should go together. I said I was working. The chant for a toast started on its own. Cassia shouted that this was the moment. I lifted my drink and smiled wide. I said art made brave people. The crowd cheered at the word brave because the word sounds easy in music. My phone buzzed with new mentions. One tag called me fearless. Another said I was reckless. I chose to see only the first. Evan stood by the pillar and focused on nothing. He could have made a scene. He did not. He watched. In his face, I saw a line I did not want to read. I stepped closer to him and asked if he would at least admit the video was good for reach. He said, reach without respect breaks trust. I said trust could handle a party clip. He said, children learn by watching. I said children should also learn that their mother could be a star. He said our child needed parents more than stars. I rolled my eyes and said he was making it heavy. He said the night had been heavy for a while. The words were quiet. They did not leave marks on the air. They stayed under my skin. Cassia waved from the rail. She said she needed one last close shot and signaled the stranger to step in again. I felt the shape of the setup and smiled like a pro. The hand came toward the fabric edge. My body wanted to move away. I did not move. I told myself I owned this moment, Not the internet, not Evan, not the masked man. I locked my knees and lifted my chin. Phones rose high. I heard the tiny whine before the bright. The light cut across my mask and made the sequins scream. The crowd gasped in a small, friendly way that helps views. Kasia yelled that she got it. My heart stuttered and then sped up. I decided right then that the internet would defend me. I told myself my caption would fix the story. I believed that because I needed to. The room felt tighter. Evan stepped back toward the patio door with a face I could not lift. I told myself he would cool down like he always did. I told myself I could explain that costumes are rules, not skin. I told myself that attention was currency and that I was earning it for the family. The stranger thanked me for the fun. Marco spun the track to a brighter chorus. Kasia checked the clip and smiled and then did not smile. The phones kept aiming at me like I was a lighthouse. I gave them one more pretty angle and tried not to show the small shaking in my hands. I held my breath. I exhaled like I did not care. Then it hit again from 3 angles at once and cut the dark into white slices. Camera flash. Diana's birthday dinner sat in the middle of the long table, like a project I had to manage. The family restaurant buzzed with clatter and polite music. I arrived a little late and told myself the entrance was part of the plan. Evan had already ordered something simple for Mila. He said the kitchen moved fast here. I said fast was fine, as long as the plates looked good in photos. Diana greeted me with a tight smile and asked if I was well. I said I was, and that the party had been a success. She said she saw a video and wanted to understand. I said the video lacked context. Menus opened and closed. Soren made a mild joke about masks and theatre. I laughed and said theatre was where truth lived. Ivy squeezed my hand and said confidence sold ideas. I said I appreciated the support. Evan kept his tone even and spoke to the server about allergy notes. I said he was always careful and that care was useful in schools. Diana asked if careful could also mean boundaries in public. I said boundaries were fine until they strangled growth. She did not respond, just cut her bread and listened. The server brought drinks. I took a picture and posted a line about family and art. Evan asked if I could keep phones down at the table. I said I was documenting memories. He said memories did not need an audience. I said audiences fund programs. Ivy nodded and said people liked seeing us lively. Diana looked at me and asked if donors liked seeing a stranger's hand on my costume. I said the hand was on fabric and that I was in control. She said control and care are not the same. I said the clip did not show the care around it. Evan stirred his water and said the clip showed enough. Mila swung her legs and asked when the cake would come. I said soon. Evan asked me to pass the napkins. I slid them over and smiled like the night was normal. Soren asked about the fundraiser goals. I said the goals would be easier after the new followers. He asked if the board agreed. I said the board would love the energy once the numbers settled. Diana asked if I had read the comments. I said, comments are noise until I shape them. Ivy said public opinion could be trained by tone. I nodded and said tone was my skill. Mrs. Elkins, from 2 blocks over, sat by the window with her sister. She looked over, then looked away, then looked over again. I told myself she was impressed. Evan noticed and asked if we could focus on the birthday. I said we were focused but modern. The server placed plates. I posted a quick story of the candle basket on the counter. Diana folded her hands and asked if I could put my phone away for the song. I said of course, then left its screen up by the bread. The screen lit with new tags. I did not touch it. I watched it glow like a small sun. When the cake arrived, the song felt thin. I clapped with bright sound. Evan helped Mila clap in time. Diana smiled at her granddaughter and blew out the candles. I said a wish should be bold. She said a wish should be real. We cut slices. I took a small bite and said the frosting tasted like childhood. Soren asked if we could take a group photo. I arranged everyone by height and angle like it mattered. I told myself a strong family image would solve the comments. After the flash, Diana asked quietly if I understood the cost of public scenes. I said there was no scene, only art. Evan set his fork down and said, "Our child deserves calm." I said she had calm. I saw no fire. Outside the restaurant, the spring air made everyone honest. Mrs. Elkins passed us slowly and said the street was buzzing about last night. I laughed and said people love to talk. She said people also watched. I said they could watch. She nodded and moved on. I faced the family and said I would post a clarifying message to end the spiral. Ivy said a strong message would help. Soren shrugged and said he stayed out of online storms. Diana said storms still soak the house. Evan asked if we could head home and put Mila to bed. I said I needed 5 minutes. I went live from the sidewalk and spoke in a firm voice about consent and context. I said costumes create rules. I said the clip was not the whole truth. I said my husband understood my role. The chat filled fast. Some viewers said I sounded brave. Others said I sounded proud. I leaned on the brave comments. I ended the stream and smiled at the family, like I had done heavy lifting for everyone. Evan said the message might open more questions. I said questions equal engagement. He said our life is not a campaign. I said the cause needed passion. He said our child needed peace. At home, the night returned to regular rhythms. Evan read the Bear chapter while I scrolled. Mila laughed at the same 2 lines. I told myself I would remember that laugh later. After lights out, Evan set his phone on the dresser. A reminder slid down. Meeting, personal 8:10 a.m. He tapped it away. I asked if school had early duties. He said he had small tasks. I said I hoped the tasks would not drag the mood down. He said moods can take care of themselves when actions are clear. I said that sounded like a line from a workshop. He said, maybe. The next morning he proposed the park before errands. I said we could show normal life and post a sunny photo. He said we could just be present. I dressed in bright colors and told myself I looked like balance. At the park, Mila ran to the slide, while Evan watched the clouds like a person counting. I posted a picture of sneakers on bark chips and wrote that family time heals noise. A message buzzed from Cassia. She said the board had questions about donor feedback. I said we would handle it and that she should trust my frame. She sent a short reply that felt like a shrug. Mila tugged my sleeve and asked if the party man was my friend. I said many people supported the cause. She asked if he touched my dress because he liked art. I said it was part of the costume rules. She asked if Daddy liked the rules. I said Daddy respected the work. Evan stood a few steps away and watched a dog chase a ball. He did not correct me. The silence felt like a border. We sat on the bench with juice boxes. A car idled near the curb, facing the street, ready to go in a straight line. I noticed a tote on the back seat and a folder tab that read Household. I asked if he was running errands now. He said he had some things to organize. I said he was turning our life into files. He said files help when life goes sideways. I said life was fine. He said he hoped it would be. I told myself he was being dramatic because drama gives quiet people power. A flock of small kids crowded the sandbox. A mother glanced at me, then at her phone. I imagined the video in her feed. I told myself she admired the mask. I told myself she envied my posture. I asked Evan if he would admit the donations would rise. He said donations are not the house we live in. I said money still pays the rent. He said respect pays too. I said respect is a feeling. Numbers are facts. He did not argue. He helped Mila tie a shoe and gave her room to try again. We walked home through the side streets. The sun caught in a window and flashed across my eyes. For a second I felt tired. I shook it off and planned my next post. I said to Evan that I would put out a Q&A to soothe the nervous donors. He said I could do what I thought best. I said I was glad he trusted my judgment. He said trust is built in actions, not captions. I said captions guide actions. He said we would see. At the corner, Mila slowed down and looked up at me like she was solving a puzzle. She asked if I liked when strangers touched my dress while Daddy watched. The words landed without music. I felt my chest pull tight. She waited for an answer, with the open-faced children use for simple math. I opened my mouth. A child's painful question. The parking garage was bright and cold, a hard light on concrete. I walked beside Evan and heard my own heels echo. I said we should talk like adults. He said we could. I said the outrage online was silly. He said the comments were not our home, but they touched it. I said the clip showed costume play, not cheating. He said Impact did not care about intent. I rolled my eyes and said he was making a theory out of a party. He stayed quiet and led the way to the car. He opened the trunk and lifted a small tote. Inside the trunk, I saw 3 binders lined like soldiers. The spines read Home, Auto, Bank. I said he was overdoing it with the labels. He said labels helped when days blur. I laughed and told him he was acting like an office. He said order kept the peace for Mila. I said our daughter would be fine once the noise died. He said peace did not need the noise first. I touched a binder like I was joking and then pulled my hand back. He closed the trunk gently and said we should keep to a normal dinner. We drove in silence. I checked my phone and saw Cassia's messages pile up. She said the board was nervous. She said donors had sent questions. I wrote that I would post again with a calm tone. She sent a flat face emoji and said the manager wanted a plan. I said the plan was to be confident. Evan asked if I was okay. I said I was more than okay, and that leadership meant taking heat. He said leadership also meant care. I said care was my brand. He did not answer. At home, I walked straight to the balcony because the night air felt like a stage. I framed a shot with the city behind me and posted a line about context. I wrote that touch on fabric is not touch on skin. I wrote that I respect family and art at the same time. I watched likes tick up. A cloud sync pop-up slid across the top of my screen. File uploaded successfully. I blinked because the message did not come from my app. I turned and saw Evan by the dining table with his laptop. A folder window with neat columns sat open. He minimized the screen as I came in. He said he was organizing. I said, organizing what? He said home things. I said he was making drama out of files. He said he was reducing drama with files. I felt heat rise and said he could talk to me instead of a computer. He said he had tried and that I had chosen posts. I poured water and moved about the kitchen like a director. I set 2 mugs far apart again, as if it proved a point. He glanced at the counter and then at the wall planner. He took a pen and circled a date next week. I asked if we were planning a picnic. He said it was for errands. The pen cap clicked, and I hated that the sound felt final. I said we should watch a show and stop playing cold. He said he needed to focus and would be out for a bit. I said out where. He said he had a few meetings. I said the word meetings sounded theatrical. He said the work was not theatre. I asked if he could at least admit the party helped the cause. He said the cause did not live in our house. He left for a short drive to the pharmacy while I refreshed comments. Ivy texted me a paragraph about tone. She said I should post softer words and use family photos to shield the feed. I said the feed did not need a shield. She sent a heart and then a list of phrases. I copied one and edited it to sound like me. Soren wrote a 1-line joke about drama online. I ignored him. Cassia asked for a board-approved statement. I said I would handle it and that we needed trust. She replied that the non-profit preferred plans over faith. I frowned and messaged Marco with a casual hello. He answered that he did not want drama. I typed that there was none and then deleted it. I decided to walk to the pharmacy too, because movement calmed my head. The queue was slow, a small line under bright bulbs. I saw Evan through the window on a bench outside. He wore headphones and spoke into the mic with steady pauses. I stepped back from the glass so he would not see me. When I turned to look again, he ended the call and opened the laptop. He minimized a document as I came out. A clean folder tree sat on the desktop with names like Archive A and Archive B. He closed the lid and asked if I needed anything. I said I needed support. He said he was here and also careful. I said careful looked like distance. He said distance can be safety until people calm down. I said I was calm. He said I sounded loud. Inside, the pharmacist asked if I wanted anything. I bought gum because buying nothing felt strange. When I came back out, Evan was standing next to the car. He said he would make dinner and suggested an early night for Mila. I said he was managing me like a student. He said he was thinking about the routine. I said the routine could bend for my work. He said the routine had bent and bent. I told him he was punishing me with silence. He said silence was not a punishment, it was space. I said space felt like a trap. At home, he set 2 calendars on the counter. One showed school pickup blocks, and the other showed meal times. He pointed at the week and asked if I could confirm nights. I said the grid made me itch. He said the grid helped Mila know what to expect. I said people with passion do not live in grids. He said children do better with structure. I said I had structure, it just looked different. He nodded without arguing. He asked about tomorrow's pickup. I said I would be on time and that I would wear something bright to reset the story. He said tomorrow was fine as long as we were on schedule. I tried one last time to turn this into a big talk. I said the clip was not betrayal. He said the words were not the point. I said he was trying to win by acting calm. He said he was trying to keep dignity in the house. I said dignity could be a costume too. He looked at me like I was far away and said he would not fight. I said a little fight showed care. He said care shows up in actions, not noise. He stepped back from the island and rested his hands on the chair. He took a slow breath and met my eyes. He said things had gone too far for debates. He said we would follow a schedule and keep words simple around Mila. I said fine, and asked what he planned to do if I kept posting. He said he could not control my posts. He said he would act on what he could control. I asked what that meant. He said it meant he would handle things the proper way. I laughed and asked if he meant a long lecture. He said no. His voice was even, almost gentle. He repeated the same line and did not blink. The room felt like a pause. The windows held the night like water. I waited for more words and got none. He said he would handle it properly. Parents lined the school sidewalk. I held my phone for a story and fixed my smile. A man in a blazer asked my name, checked, and handed a packet. He said service was complete and read a note about temporary orders and a custody schedule. Evan stood several steps away, hands at his sides, speaking softly with Principal Rao. I said this was overreaction. He thanked the teacher for transitions. The lobby bell dinged as doors opened. Mila ran toward us with her backpack. The teacher said we should follow the plan today. Evan stepped back. I gripped the papers. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.